Okay, so for this week, we're going to go over verbal and nonverbal communication. It's a lot more fun. So, what is verbal and nonverbal communication? Verbal communication is simply the process of transmitting information to other people using language. It can include the oral exchange of concepts, emotions, and knowledge. So, for example, this means actual words like language, right? So, like, I'll order the burger, huh, yeah, cool, don't be late, or asking for directions. Okay. It does require some skills, right? Effective verbal communication has skills that include projecting your voice so people can hear you, your tone, and appropriate humor, and things like that. And nonverbal communication is the process of communicating without using words. So, this is simply body language, like crossed arms, nodding your head, watery eyes, if you smile. Those are all nonverbals. So, as I said before, verbal communication is language, right? And it's language helps us generate meaning. And remember, generating meaning is the core value or the core definition of what communication is. So, language is really important because it helps us create these meanings by assigning meaning to symbols and signs. So, we arrive at a meaning through the interaction between our nerves and sensory systems and some stimulus outside of them. Okay. So again, language creates codes of symbols to create meanings. Now, a symbol is something that stands in or represents something else. Okay. So it could be a dog. Okay. The symbols we use combine to form language systems with codes. Or these language systems, these symbols create these language systems known as codes. Codes are culturally agreed on and ever changing systems of symbols that help us organize, understand, and generate meaning. Okay. So for example, a stop sign. A stop sign is a symbol. In our culture, it means stop. Don't let the car move forward. The triangle of meaning is the exact system, the exact formula we follow to generate these meanings. Okay. It indicates the relationship among a thought, symbol, and referent, and highlights the indirect relationship between the symbol and the referent. So if we look here, this model explains how the meaning of a dog, what the meaning of a dog is, right? So the symbol, which is quite literally just the mental image or the word of dog, D-O-G, right? And our thought is when we see that, right? We see someone's dog walking around, we go, oh, I want a dog. So it starts with seeing something, right? The symbol. It leads to a thought. And the referent is an actual dog, right? Seeing the dog. And then it goes back. The referent, right? The thing you see, it's the symbol, right? So the thing we see an actual dog walking around. It's a symbol, right? It's a symbol we see. It's the meaning of it, what we call it. And then you get a thought of, I want a dog. Now, your meaning, your triangle of meanings, your triangles of generating meaning is influenced by your culture, including your experiences and your age. Okay. Now, as this model shows, for any given symbol, okay, there can be many different referents that can lead to misunderstanding. Okay. If I see a fox, fox, right, is kind of mean looking, right? Symbol fox, F-O-X. And then my thought is, ooh, that's scary. I don't want one of those. That's what I mean by any symbol can have different referents that have different meaning. You could create meaning all on your own. So language, it's really important to know that language does not mirror reality. That's because language or words have two meanings. They have denotative meaning and connotative meaning. Denotative meaning is the literal precise meaning of the word. It's the dictionary definition. So for example, a cow is an animal, right? It's a cow, it's an animal, it produces milk, it walks around, it eats grass. Cow, four-legged animal with spikes. The connotative meaning of a cow, right? You see a cow. Connotative is the abstract meaning. So we see the cow, we think food. Connotative meanings are abstract because they are based in experience. So how I interact with something is how I create the meaning of it, right? Going back to the triangle. I see a cow, I think food. Some people see a cow and think power, right? Or wealth. Now, there's lots of abstraction, right? And there's actually an abstraction ladder. There's levels of abstraction. This process of extracting, of leaving things out, right? So we leave things out. This allows us to communicate more effectively because it serves as a shorthand that keeps us from having a completely unmanageable language filled with millions of words, each referring to one specific thing. What do I mean by that? So since words do not mirror reality, we all have our own understanding of words, right? We have to come up with some way to manage misunderstandings due to abstraction, due to abstract thought, to clarify. So in this diagram, we have most abstract to most concrete. Now we know that denotative, right? Denotative words are concrete, literal, and precise. Denotative words are concrete, literal, precise. And connotative words are our abstract words. Okay. So what this says, we'll actually start with the bottom. We have direct experience with sensory information about thing that we'll later call Bessie. Bessie is a cow, okay? Bessie, it's a symbol assigned to this thing that allows us to communicate about it even when it's not in its presence, right? So down here, we had to see Bessie. We had to see the thing. Here we said, you know what? I'm going to call this thing Bessie. Bessie's a cow, right? It's a symbol that recognizes other creatures. It's also livestock. Livestock's a symbol that recognizes animals kept on farms or ranches. Asset, a symbol that recognizes the monetary worth of a possession. And then wealth, a symbol that refers to prosperity, fortune, success in relation to material good or other life conditions. Okay. Now also works the other way, right? Wealth, the symbol. We want wealth. Oh, how do you get wealth? Oh, by assets. What are assets? Things like livestock. What is livestock? Cow. Well, what's a cow? Bessie. Who's Betsy? It's that thing that was out in the pasture yesterday. Okay. So level abstraction, the ladder of abstraction, it's just a way that we shorthand things to keep manageable language. So we want to always avoid misunderstandings with our language. We do this by creating whole messages that contain relevant observations, thoughts, feelings, and needs. We use metaphors, similes, personification, and vivid language to evoke emotions, right? This is to help reduce misunderstandings. If I say, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, it's a metaphor. Can't really eat a horse, right? But it gets that sense, it gets that emotion, it provokes that emotion of, oh my gosh, I could eat anything. Like, I'm so hungry, I could eat anything. We also always must adapt our language to the listener. So, for example, if you're talking to a 5-year-old versus talking to an elderly person, right? We have to adapt our language, which means we want to try to stay away from slang words, right? Your grandma does not understand the lingo that you use with your friends, okay? They don't understand slang words like mid or cap, okay? Those are slang words, right? Examples of slang words that your grandma wouldn't know. But your grandma would know things like hopscotch. Okay, it was a term for a place that people used to go and hang out. Now, there is incivility, which is a very important term to know. And this is when we deviate from accepted social norms for communication and behavior. And it tends to manifest in swearing and polarized language that casts people and ideas as opposites. It's important to know that in today's society, we are expected to be very inclusive in our language. So, for example, we always avoid the generic he. We refer to a group by how they like to be called, and things like that. Okay. It's expected that you do research before you talk to a group. Okay, and that helps us determine what language to use. Knowing who's in the room before we start talking is very important. All right, so let's talk about nonverbal cues, our nonverbal clues. So most of our communication is nonverbal. It's actually 90% of our communication is nonverbal. Okay, this means that our body language plays an important part in communicating a message. It also means our words do not always mirror how we feel about a message, right? So for example, I'm fine. I'm fine. If I say I'm fine, and my arms crossed, or I'm crying, or I'm like this picture here, right? I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm fine. Really, I mean it. We know from the body cues, the language, the body language, right? That person is not fine. Now, there's different types of nonverbal cues, nonverbal communication. We have kinetics, which is things that involve the body. So this is gestures like a thumbs up, it's a facial expression like a smile, it's eye movement, it's head nodding, it's looking someone in the eye. The next one is haptics, and this is touch, right? The way you touch someone professionally versus intimately, right? If I'm with my coworker, I shake their hand. That's professional touch, right? As where if I'm with a friend or haven't seen a friend in a while, I give them a hug. Okay. Haptics, type of nonverbal communication that refers to touch. We have vocalics, right? Vocalics, which is your speaking rate, your pitch, your volume, your tone of voice, and vocal quality. Okay. This is like the changes in someone's voice when they talk. Okay. Like you could tell I'm really nervous because I'm speaking really, really fast. Right. Or if you're really, really tired, you speak a little slower, you probably yawn. Those sorts of things are all the vocal nonverbals or vocalious nonverbals. The next one is chronemics, which is, chromemics, which is time, right? This could include the time of day. If I have bad news to share, it's probably better to share it at the beginning of the day than the end of the day, right? If I have an important message to tell, I probably shouldn't do it after lunch when everyone's tired. This also includes the change or the cycle changes of like the past and the future or the winter and the summer, right? We talk about the weather all the time, but the way we talk about the weather is different, right? We have nonverbal communication about the weather all the time. I'm cold, right? I wear a jacket. I'm hot. I'm wearing shorts. That's another chronometics. Now, personal presentation and environment are also nonverbal. This is layouts of like a room, uniforms, okay? How do you know a firefighter's a firefighter? They're usually wearing a uniform. This is also seating positions and arrangements, okay? Like when you plan a wedding, you put together seating charts, and this is nonverbal language. This is a type of nonverbal language because you are trying to avoid misunderstandings or avoid people, try to remove people that won't get along, okay? So your personal presentation environment is another form of nonverbal. The type of nonverbal I'm going to ask you about on the midterm is proxemics. Proxemics is the physical space and distance of a message. Okay. So let's look at this. So in the Western culture, we have 4 major spaces of how we communicate. Okay, distances. So your intimate space, this 0 to like 1 foot. If we stand this close to someone while we're talking, this is called intimate space. This means you're really close to that person. Okay. It could be a spouse. It could be your best friend. It could be your mom. It's anyone that you do not mind being pushed close to, right? And then you have your personal space. This is about 3 feet. This is like a normal conversation with like a coworker. Okay. You stand 3 feet apart. That's where most of our communication happens in America or in our culture. And then we have social space. Think of social space like a classroom, the distance between you and your teacher. That's social space. Okay. And then public space is the largest space. This is 12 or more. This is a concert. Okay. So think of it this way: public space, concert, social space, classroom, personal space, one-on-one conversation, and intimate space as a hug. Okay. So here's the big takeaways. Verbal communication includes language. Language has 2 types of meaning. Verbal communication is the use of our voice to communicate a message. Nonverbal communication is 90% of our communication. It includes our body language. We have proxemics, which is the distance of the space or how much space we take up when talking. We have haptics, we have chronomics, we have all sorts of different types of nonverbals. We learned the triangle of meaning, how symbols become codes that create meaning and thought. Denotative and connotative meaning. Denotative is literal and precise, and connotative is abstract. This also includes the ladder of abstraction. We learned why language is important and why you need to be accurate while speaking. It's to avoid misunderstandings. And then we learned how the importance of language can be changed from who you're talking to. And that's the end of this lecture. So go ahead and jump on back over to Canvas for the rest of this week's assignment. Bye, guys.